Hey there. Welcome, civilians. You've arrived at the home of civilized and thought-provoking commentary. Get ready for elevation, growth, and experience. I am the civilized woman.
Welcome back, civilians. I hope all is well with you all. This video is gonna be finally I get to premiere my series that I am titling Dangerous Men, Women Beware. And this series is gonna talk about men that I deem to be dangerous to women and for women. And the danger is may not necessarily be physical, it's more emotional, mental, spiritual is what I deem to be dangerous or a dangerous man. Before I get started on what makes a man dangerous, let me tell you a few things, in my opinion, that makes a man safe. A safe man is a man of integrity, loyalty, committed, a protector, provider, respectful, a servant leader, meaning he's a positive force and role model to all around him. Now, let's get into this commentary and see how Cam Newton stacks up. And my inaugural dangerous man is none other than quarterback Cam Newton. So, what makes Cam Newton a dangerous man? Well, Cam Newton is 6'5", 245 pounds, according to Google. His estimated net worth is $75 million. He played as a professional athlete on the highest of levels. And honestly, when I was doing this research on Cam Newton, I was impressed by I knew he was good, but I didn't realize how good he was athletically. Cam played he's a multi-sport athlete and actually didn't get into playing football till the closer to the latter part of his high school career, if I'm not mistaken. Prior to that, he played basketball, and I think he also played baseball. And that's remarkable for somebody. That means he didn't do no Pop Warner or anything like that. And so to come from starting out playing football later in his high school career to then being drafted pretty high, he first started out at Florida. He was the backup for Tim Tebow, and then he transferred to Auburn, where he won the Heisman Trophy. And I think he was the third Auburn player to win the Heisman Trophy, which is like the Super Bowl trophy in college football. So I say all that to say that Cam Newton is athletically is very impressive. On paper, his finances, his physicality would make him like a desirable, right? What the folks these days like to call an alpha male. Cam Newton grew up in a two-parent home, right? He grew up with mother and father. His parents had been married for over 30 years, and I believe he's one of three siblings. So Cam Newton grew up in a two-parent home, and when he talks about that, you can tell the pride that he has in that, and that his father is a pastor, his mother is a stay-at-home mom, she's a mentor to other women, God-fearing people. Like, nothing and nobody is perfect, but Cam Newton grew up in a household with structure. He had a father who gave structure, and then he had a mother who was who nurtured. And according to him and his mother have like a really really cute and sweet dynamic. In the videos I got to see on his channel and stuff, and he's interviewed her. They're very playful yet respectable, and you can tell that his mother is the benchmark. And so for him, in terms of the kind of woman he would want to be with if he were to ever settle down or ever desire marriage, he just seems to have a high regard and high respect for her, and she seemed to be a very respectable woman based on just seeing things she said and seeing their interaction with each other. And he looks like her too, right? She's a beautiful chocolate lady, and he looks like her, just a lighter complected version of her. And so seeing that really it really impressed me, and I just really was like, How do we get this guy is who comes from this stable and structured environment? Again, nothing's perfect, but just based on the outside, right? Where st- statistically speaking, that it is better, especially if you are a black male, to have a father in the home, to come from a two-parent household. I think that's good for anyone across the board. But if we're being realistic, that seems to be a stereotype that is pinned a lot on black people, especially black children, black males. So for all intents and purposes, Cam grew up in what would be considered the ideal scenario, right? Has his two parents. They've been married over 30 years. He tends to talk about that with pride. I did notice though that he seems to be unique out of all his siblings. He kind of danced to the beat of his own drums, which means that he got in a little bit of trouble and could be a little bit of a handful. Now, apparently, he wasn't doing all of that at home so much, but he was doing that outside of the home, right? And so his mother had to try and find the balance between making sure that he's disciplined, which it seemed like it was mostly the dad's job, but also being nurturing and loving and allowing him to be his unique self. And if you look at Cam Newton's appearance now, he has a definitely has a pretty unique look. So I'm looking at this and then I'm reflecting and I'm thinking, how does somebody who seemed to come from the ideal structured environment going along and creating for all intents and purposes, Cam grew up in what would be considered the ideal scenario, right? Has his two parents. They've been married over 30 years. He tends to talk about that with pride. I did notice though that he seems to be unique out of all his siblings. He kind of danced to the beat of his own drums, which means that he got in a little bit of trouble and could be a little bit of a handful. Now, apparently, he wasn't doing all of that at home so much, but he was doing that outside of the home, right? And so his mother had to try and find the balance between making sure that he's disciplined, which it seemed like it was mostly the dad's job, but also being nurturing and loving and allowing him to be his unique self. And if you look at Cam Newton's appearance now, he has a definitely has a pretty unique look. So I'm looking at this and then I'm reflecting and I'm thinking, how does somebody who seemed to come from the ideal structured environment going along and creating generational curses, in my opinion, by creating broken homes and creating baby mamas and children who won't have the privilege of growing up in a two-parent household. So to me, Cam Newton is a dangerous man because he's causing generational curses. Now hear me, I'm not speaking a curse over him, his family, or anybody. What I'm saying is his actions is against how he was raised. And the goal is normally that we're to give our children and our legacy better than what we had, right? So if we had good, we want to give our children great. So the goal is to build up the legacy to be better and better. We're now in a society where people think that if you have money, that is what qualifies you as a high value man, and as long as you have money, that means then money cures all. So you can go ahead and create all these broken homes as long as you have the money to take care of them. And in my opinion, nothing can be further from the truth. You're going to see on the thumbnails that I will give him credit. He has great taste. The mothers of his children are beautiful women. Now, y'all, don't freak out because in the thumbnail it says the baby mamas. I know that these women have names. I know that they're unique individuals in their own rights and they're accomplished in their own rights and they have a purpose in their own right. However, we are talking about we're talking about Cam Newton being a dangerous man by creating generational curses, and by virtue of his actions, he's essentially relegated these women to being baby mamas. So that's the only reason why you see the title The Baby Mamas and not their individual names. I know their names. If you go from right to left, you have Lorena Shaw, who, if I'm being honest, based on my research, I think that that was probably just kind of like a fling. I don't know if that was like a real relationship. She kind of seems to be like an IG model. And then in the middle is his first baby mom, and they have four children together. Him and Lorena have one. Lorena had a previous one, which Cam Newton claims, and then Kia have four, and then Kia has a daughter from a previous relationship that Cam claims as well. And then you have to the far left, you have Jasmine Brown, Miss Jazzy. Watch Jazzy. To me, Jazzy is the most accomplished out of all three of the women. The one who has the most notoriety and who had her own level of stardom prior to being connected with Cam Newton. But I'm going to be honest though, she came to my consciousness, to be frank, because of her relationship with Cam. And she did, like a couple years ago, she did an interview with Shan Booty about being submissive, and that went viral because of her take was so strong. And from what I understand, Jazzy's brand prior to getting with Cam was very girl power, very independent, very you don't tell me what to do kind of vibe, right? But that seemed to be, contrast to what we are seeing now, where she's like, for my man type, anything for my man, as long as he's happy, I'll do anything to please him. And she's talking in, like, the beginning of the interview, she's talking about submission and her being concerned that talking with him, and that her love for her baby might get in the way of the level of love that she has for him. And she knows it sounds crazy, but just the importance of being submitted to her man. And she starts off in that interview actually talking about her upbringing, talking about her parents, and how her mother was like the submissive type. Now, Jazzy is from Florida, I think West Palm Beach, Florida, and according to her, grew up in the hood. And but they lived in a nice house in the hood, but they still live in the hood. However, she also went to private school where she was mostly around white people, and it was not a diverse environment. So she wasn't black enough, for the black people. And then around the white people, she was, classified as black, and she this need to kind of camouflage and hide her identity, and kind of become a chameleon, where she would say she was, Dominican, or she was some form of being Hispanic, just to kind of give an exotic edge. And that actually added to her talent, this ability to create characters. And I think her most infamous character is Toya. So I say all that to say that you have these women with different level of notoriety that this man has procreated with, right? So let's start with Lorena. She, again, I just seemed like an IG model. There wasn't really much of her outside of what's on IG. I think she might be a photographer or something, but just really wasn't much there, to be honest. Now, Kia, if I'm not mistaken, she's a former stripper. I remember years ago Cam Newton doing an interview when he was talking about why it didn't work out with him and her. And of course, there were some legal battles. She's taken him to court a few times about, paying certain bills. And I think he had taken her to court regarding a car that she had when they were together, that was years old, but he was trying to get back. So there was back and forth with that. They seem to be in a decent place in terms of co-parenting. But Kia was a former stripper, and Cam Newton talked about when they first got together how, it was all fun, and they had a good time, they were homies, all of that. And then at some point, Kia got to where she then wanted to be married, right? Because I started off as a stripper, but I actually now want something more substantive, and I want to be with somebody. I want to be married to the person I've had my children with. Well, when Kia has a channel, so on her channel she talks about how she was on the marriage was the goal, and then that was when Cam got somebody else pregnant, and I think it was Lorena, and that's what ultimately broke them up. But she does desire marriage, and the next time she has a child, her desire is to have that child within the confines of marriage. And then you have Jazzy, who I believe her parents are still together. So you have these women who have, at least for Kia and Jazzy, they seem to have strong support system. Kia's mother lives with her and helps her with her children, and Jazzy just had Cam's eighth child. So she just had her first child, and she just had that child with Cam. So you now have this man who grew up in one structured home with two loving parents and family, where he was doted on, where he was encouraged, where he was loved, where he got to be himself, who has now created three separate households. Not to say that those households cannot succeed, not to say that those households cannot thrive, but it is to say that there is something to having a mother and a father in the house day after day, working it out together, being on one accord, raising the children up. The children they don't develop the tactic for being manipulative, right? Because if you have two parents on the same page working together in the same home, they get to see that. Whereas when you have these separate homes, it's like, okay, one week we're with daddy, the other week we're with mommy, and they're doing this back and forth, and they're not seeing a constant interaction with these two people. The relationship between your parents is what illustrates to you what married people should look like, what it's like when two people work together for a common goal. In the case would be raising a family, building legacy together. So he had that, and yet has chosen not to give his children that. And when he did he had Dr. Bryant, I believe she is a psychologist or a counselor of some sort, had her, Dr. Cheyenne Bryant. He had her on her show, and he says he's more afraid of divorce than he is desiring marriage. However, he wants more children, which means that he intends to create more broken homes. So I don't understand why somebody who would come from that structure, something seems to be missing. There seems to be some kind of missing piece, some kind of gap in that. And his spirit, he doesn't really have a strong spiritual backing, right? Your father is a pastor, your mother is living the same life, your parents are living the same life, as apparently so, and yet none of that transferred to you. So were you not trained up in the way that you should go, so that when you grow old you won't depart? Or are you just choosing to do your own thing? I don't doubt that he loved his children, but everything in Kim's world seems to be about him, and everyone else just kind of exists around him, and they fit in as to how it benefits him. Now, clearly, I don't know this man. I've never met him, never talked to him, never been around him and his family. I'm giving an observation strictly based on what he has shown the public. I will give him credit. I do respect and commend the fact that he has claimed the children of the women that he has had children with, that he is not the biological father of, as his children. That's very commendable. However, if I were these women, I'm not sure if I will want that to be the role model of a man that I want my children to look up to. In the case Kia's daughter, would she want her daughter to be with a man like him? And Lorena is a son. Would she want her son to be like a man like him? Let's take the money, the finances, the physicality out of it. We're talking character. We're talking about legacy. We're talking about what you impart to a child. Would they want that? They're obviously not with this man. So clearly there's something there that they didn't desire for themselves. So I'm not sure you will want that for as that example for your children. But I do think it's commendable that he took those children on as his own. But something is definitely missing. I think the one though that's been the most troubling to me is Jazzy. The other women are much lower profile. Jazzy is out there. She's an entertainer. She's very talented. She's on the I don't know the name of her character on Sisters. That's on BET. It's Sister, excuse me, on BET. But she's very talented. Her web series, very talented. People who are aware of her or who have been on her way for years and years. Her YouTube goes back at least 12 years. Really are. I think she's. A lot of people are puzzled by her just because of what seems to be this change. So for me, it's kind of like, okay, have you, it's either you've always been this submissive type and you kind of played into the independent woman, I'm not going to let a man tell me this or that, or you are the independent woman, I'm not going to let a man tell me this or that, and you are now playing this role for this man because he has money. You may find him attractive. There's some kind of benefit you're getting from this situation. So recently, it's come out that he's admitted to cheating on her, right? That he has cheated on her. Now her comedy is very it can be a little raunchy for my taste if I'm being honest. But just her talking about the relationship, and there's been times where she's talked about it where it's like just anything to please him, just to make sure he's good, whatever he wants to do, even if it pains her, as long as he's good, then she's good. And that may have been she may have mentioned that in the Shan Booty interview. And that's a little troubling to me. Submission is a wonderful thing because what it is, biblical submission, I should say, is a wonderful thing. And I think that's part of the problem here, at least for me, is that she is giving submission to a man that won't even give her his last name. I'm going to be honest, I don't foresee a scenario where he will marry her. To me, Cam sees Jazzy as the homie. And that's a very dangerous place to be in with a man, in my opinion. Yes, you want to be his friend, but first and foremost, you want to be his lover. You want him to see you as his lover because that is what's going to propel him to want to honor you in all the ways that he can honor you. Fidelity is definitely very important in a way of how a man honors you. So for him to see her as the homie and for her to seemingly be like, I know who he is, and he's like, she knows who I am, and we just do our thing. I highly doubt that pendulum swings both ways. I don't think that Jazzy can just be with somebody else and that not be an issue for Cam, because most men can't really take their women being with someone else. I don't care what they say, and that definitely becomes a problem for me. I think men I think we as women struggle with the fact that men are not like us. A man will keep you as a placeholder for 20 years and meet the woman that he really wants to be with and would marry her in under a year. You've put in all that work, you've helped put into him what it would take for him to be the right man, and another woman who is willing to stand up and say, I'm not taking XYZ crap from you, he's going to go with her instead. I'm afraid that Jazzy is making herself a placeholder to this dangerous man who's out here creating generational curses. And I don't understand why that is. I really cannot see how she is benefiting from this relationship. I guess outside of content for her comedy show or just to kind of be in the public eye, but she of herself with her talent, she's actually is doing things on her own, getting shows, creating movies for BT and her stuff on her web stuff. So I don't understand why she would submit herself to this man to her own detriment, just for the sake of being submissive when he's not doing anything, in my opinion, to be worthy of that submission. The number one thing that he can do to be worthy of that submission is to not make you a baby mama, but to make you a wife, the mother of his youngest child. So it came out like a few days ago that Cam has been with other women during their relationship. I don't think any of us are surprised about that. And let's see what Jazzy had to say. Okay, she says that it's no secret when it comes to her and Cam. She says as long, this is in Essence magazine. This is in Essence.com. She says, quote, as long as I've been with Jazz, Jazz has not been the only person. Oh, excuse me. This quote is Cam's quote, right? They're quoting Cam. He says, as long as I've been with Jazz, Jazz has not been the only person I've had sex with. He said, there's times where I've openly had conversations, and this is why me and Jazz are growing in our relationship. Jazz allows me to speak to her, and we're able to have banter, whether it's uncomfortable banter or kicking SH blank T banter. So, as long as he has been with her, he has had sex with other women. So, not only is he a generational curse creator, he's also bringing home spirits to her, because when you have sex, you impart spirits, right? There's an exchange that the man actually transfers into the bone, right? Like, that's how much you become intertwined when you have that act. So not only is he a generational curse creator, he's now causing her to have soul ties with other women, because he's sleeping with other people, and he's bringing that to her. Not only the chance for diseases, not only that, the chance to get another woman pregnant. Again, I doubt that this goes both ways. I doubt that Jazzy would be able to do this and it be okay. So it says, looks here, there's a quote from Jazzy. She finally decided to respond, I guess, once this got out. And then it says, so Jazzy decided to respond, quote, child, here come the just checking on you DMs. I'm fine, the comedian wrote in her Instagram stories. Trust me, I know who and what my NI blank A is. Ain't no secrets or surprises. He can talk to me about anything. She continues in a separate note. Why not just be single if you're gonna cheat? I feel you. However is in all caps, men just be wanting to F, she added. Once they do that, they're back to temporarily thinking straight. It's real ghetto out here. I get it. I don't blame y'all for wanting to be single, but if you spend enough time talking to men about this topic, you'll see that it's not as shocking as it may seem. End quote. So I don't know what Jazzy, what example she had. I don't know what her parents' marriage looked like. I think they might still be married, but I don't understand why a woman would subject herself to a man like this. The embarrassment, the potential health scares. Nothing is 100%. Condom isn't 100%. Pills isn't 100%. Just like she's a mother of his child, there's plenty of women out there, I'm sure, who are jockeying to be the mother of his child. If he needs it that bad, or gotta have it with somebody other than you, I what's to say that he's not also gonna want it raw? Like, what's the line that's he's not to cross? if you allow this, and he can pretty much do whatever he wants. And again, it bears repeating that I'm pretty sure that she don't get to do the same even if she wanted to. I am at a loss. Going back to the other women, honestly, if I look at these three women, I think if Cam was going to marry any of them, it would be Kia if he had got his act right when they were still together, because she, to me, her demeanor seemed very very low key, very very demure, much more, even her tone, she's not loud and big, and like how I think Jazzy is. Jazzy has a very big personality that I think Cam has gotten off on being able to tame, or to have her submit, right? But Kia, to me, seemed to have a level that would require Cam to rise to the occasion, to have a level of maturity that I don't think he's interested in having. And that, quite frankly, I think was part of the problem in his NFL career, was his immaturity. And that's not a shock when you have somebody who's a talented athlete. They tend to be catered to and tend to have their way a lot, so they can be a little bit bratty, if you get what I'm saying. So, but I think that Jazzy is. I'm afraid that she is working overtime to lose herself, to make this relationship work, because I think she don't want to have egg on her face, and she don't want to be the laughing stock. And I think deep down inside, she may think that if I'm just the homie, if I'm just cool with whatever, he'll decide to settle with me. And I'm sorry to say that I don't think that is the case. So in submission, to wrap this all up, Cam Newton is a dangerous man because he creates generational curses by creating broken homes, causing spiritual disturbance and lack of maturity. And in my opinion, he should be avoided. Until next time.
Please like, comment, share, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.